1952 Topps Baseball, the most famous set ever made, with possibly the most famous card ever produced. What were the circumstances of the time? Who was part of this set? Why is it so valuable? Why is it such a legend in the hobby world? Find out next on today's episode of the Cardboard Chronicles. Hey guys, it's Mr. Hollywood and welcome back to episode number 2 of the Cardboard Chronicles. On today's episode, we have arguably the most famous card and the most famous set ever made. Of course, I'm talking about 1952 Topps Baseball. Let me start by taking you back over 70 years ago. The major card producer in the United States is actually Bowman. They produced this card here. But Bowman had released their first card set in 1948 and had the edge in terms of signing players to exclusive deals early on, but Topps knew that they wanted a piece of the action, and so they began signing players of their own leading up to the 1952 release, kind of in preparation for that. Topps released some tester sets first, including, there was a few, but it was, I think it was blue and redbacks, Connie Max All-Stars, Major League All-Stars, Topps teams. Those were a handful of them. So Topps enters the market very well knowing that there's a big battle ahead with Bowman. So what do they try to do to seize the lead, to stand out? Well, they decide to make giant-sized picture cards. Emphasis on the word giant, which you can see on the packaging of the boxes and the packs. Pictures are on your screen right now. Now, Topps would actually go on to be wildly successful, obviously. They're still around today. They actually bought out Bowman shortly thereafter in 1955, which is why even to this day, you can see the name Topps on the bottom line of even Bowman baseball cards, even today. But back to 1952 Topps, what made it famous, what players were in it, and what are the value of the cards like, and why are they worth so much? All important questions to answer, to understand. So Bowman's 51 release, which famously had the true rookie card of Mickey Mantle. This is obviously, a lot of people think the 52 Topps and Mickey Mantle is the true rookie card. By the way, all of these cards that you're seeing on your screen right now, these are all reprints. These are not the original cards. So just want to put that out there. These are all reprints. But Bowman's 51 release, which actually had the true rookie card of Mickey Mantle, had a total of 324 cards in that set, and the cards were much smaller. So you can see what I'm holding here. This is actually from the 52 set. This is actually the 52 Bowman Mantle. This is a reprint of it. Here is a 52 Topps Mantle. You can see the difference in the size. So, and this reprint is actually smaller than the actual 52 authentic card is, so it's even bigger than this realistically. But you can see the size difference. This was considered seriously jumbo at the time, which is why they put giant-sized picture cards written all over the wrappers and the boxes. But the 52 set was not only way bigger and honestly more colorful for the most part, but there was 407 cards in that set. 407 compared to the 324 from Bowman, so it was a way bigger set. The cards were way bigger, and they were issued in 6 different series over a period of time. So the images were color tinted on the Topps cards, as you can see, but on the Bowman cards, it has more of like a painting look to it. Like you can see here, kind of looks like it's a painting, right? Whereas these are all color tinted, and they are photos more so on the 52 set. But let's talk about how much these things cost at the time. So what if I told you that your PSA 10 1952 Mickey Mantle baseball card that's worth, say, $40 to $50 million? I mean, well, okay, maybe that's a bad example because I'm only talking to like 3 people on planet Earth. There's only 3 of them. A pack of this stuff of 1952 Topps was 5 cents for a pack. You heard me right, 5 cents. You know what else is worth 5 cents today? an empty can of Sprite from the guy that's going through your recycling bin on the street. That's about it, 5 cents. But what were the big cards in the set? How can we not start with card number 311? That is the Mickey Mantle here. A lot of people call this the rookie card, but it's of course actually, as I alluded to earlier, the 51 Bowman, that's his actual rookie card. But why is this one of the top 2 most famous sports cards in the world, along with the 1909 T206 Honus Wagner, that super famous cigarette card that's probably the most sought after and is considered the real holy grail of baseball cards. But what makes this card right here worth even $25,000 to $30,000 in a PSA 1? And speculative, but a $30 to $50 million card in a PSA 10. Well, let's start with the fact that Mickey Mantle would go on to be the best switch hitter in baseball history. That's number 1. He hit .298 in his career with 536 career home runs, 2,400 career hits, I think something around there. Get this, he was a 20-time All-Star, 20-time All-Star, and 7-time World Series champion. That is ridiculous. 3-time AL MVP. He won a Gold Glove in 1962. He hit for the Triple Crown in 1956. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1974. So let's start with the obvious. An absolutely historic career. One of the best players to ever do it. So we're coming out of World War II. America needs new homegrown heroes. And Mickey Mantle helps to fill the void and kind of becomes one of America's sweethearts. So that's reason number 1 that this card is so popular, so valuable, why it's so highly sought after. But why is this card so rare besides the accolades? Well, Mantle was card number 311 in this set. The first card of the 6th and final series, actually I don't know if it was the first card, I think it was 307 is high number. Anyways, Mantle's card was part of the 6th and final series of cards that was released and printed for the set. The problem with that was by the time that the high number cards, which included this, which included the Jackie Robinson, which included, it did not include the Willie Mays actually, he's number 261 I believe. Yeah, so Willie's 261. But we're talking about the Mantle for now, but by the time this high number set was released, it was the end of the season, kids were going back to school, and the demand just wasn't as high as before. People were excited about, the 1953 season and the 1953 card release. So Topps actually had a ton of these high number series cases, or cases with high number series cards sent back to them from stores because the stores simply couldn't sell the product. So it gets to the point where Topps has so much stockpiled in their warehouse that the shops couldn't sell, they couldn't sell. I mean, I think at one point the shops were advertising like 10 cards for 1 cent. Before the packs were obviously 5 cents for a pack. Just to try and get rid of this stuff, they tried to sell 10 cards for 1 cent. Can you imagine picking up 10 Mickey Mantles for 1 cent? I mean, it's comical. But it wasn't that made them valuable. It's actually this part of card history and card lore that I'm about to tell you about that leaves you cringing, but in reality, it shouldn't leave us cringing because it's also kind of what created the immense value of these cards. So again, Topps runs out of space, allegedly, in their warehouse to store all this stuff. They got to get ready to print in 1953, so they need space. So what do you do when you run out of space and you need to make space for a new product? Well, you either sell the old product at a discount, which clearly wasn't working. 1 cent for 10 cards. They were getting the no, so they decided to do the next best thing on their minds. Brace yourselves for this one. What did they decide to do? Well, they decided to destroy the stockpile. So, Topps assigned Cy Berger, the guy who actually designed the 1952 set. I'll take this out because this is not part of the 1952 set. So Cy Berger was the man commissioned to design the 1952 set, and Topps assigned him to get these unsold high series card cases, including the 311 Mickey Mantle. They loaded the boxes onto pallets at their Brooklyn warehouse. Again, this is all allegedly. They drive them to the port. They load them onto a barge. Yes, that's a type of boat-ish of sorts. They went onto a boat. They then took that boat into the Atlantic Ocean, and it still hurts, but yes, they then dumped that stockpile into the big deep blue, into the Atlantic Ocean, sunk all the way to the bottom probably. And just like that, not Mr. Hollywood out, not yet. Whether they realized it or not, they made the 1952 high series set way less populous and thus very, very valuable down the road. So I guess you could say that these cards wouldn't be the same if they hadn't been dumped into the ocean. So I guess there's that, and I guess that's positive, but still a crazy story in the hobby and the reason why we are where we are today with this set. So this story probably leads you to ask the question, well, surely someone has sealed packs of high number or a case of this stuff, right? Well, I can tell you that it has happened one time in 1986. Near Boston, Alan Rosen gets a call about an uncirculated case of 1952 Topps baseball. It is the biggest baseball find in the history of sports cards. 75% of that case was high number, 75%. It was an authentic, uncirculated case. About 5,500 total cards were in that case. There was about 75 Mickey Mantles and Jackie Robinsons were in that, of which is the primary source for the current PSA 10 versions of this card in existence. There are 3 of them in existence, along with like almost 200 Willie Mays. This one right here, rest in peace, Willie Mays just passed away recently. We're all part of that find. Absolutely insane what that find is worth in today's dollars. I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions, most likely. Speaking of which, what is the Mantle card worth nowadays, and what are the other big cards in the set that are worth the most biscuits? Well, the Mantle in a PSA 10 hasn't sold recently, but most would argue it's probably in the neighborhood of $30 and $50 million. You heard me right there, $30 to $50 million. There's 3 copies of it in the world. To be honest with you guys, I think it would sell for closer to $50 million. This thing is just so fabled, and there's only 3 of them. Obviously, none of these are really surfacing anymore from finds in an attic or stuff like that. I don't think this card is really comparable. It's kind of just like what a billionaire or someone with $100 million is willing to pay for it, or multiple $100 million is willing to pay for it. That's kind of what it's worth. So I'm gonna go with the fact that it's closer to $50 million in my opinion, because if that thing comes to market, there's gonna be some big time fish going after that. I'm talking billionaires. So I think it's a $50 million card, maybe more, who knows? But an SGC 9.5 sold for $12.6 million in 2022. A PSA 9 sold for $5 million in 2021. A PSA 8.5 did $2.4 million. We had a recent sale of 12 million plus for, I think it was a 9. I want to say it was an SGC 9 or something like that. But you get the picture. What's the cheapest that you can get this card for, realistically? Well, a PSA 1 or just like a PSA Authentic, that'll still set you back about $25, excuse me, to $30,000. Yeah, the price of a brand new Toyota Prius. But what are the other famous cards? High number cards, or just famous cards in this set in general. Let's start with Jackie Robinson and that amazing looking red background. A PSA 9 of this sold for almost $1 million in 2021, according to PSA. According to PSA Pop, there is not a PSA 10 in existence of this card, so PSA 9, as far as I know, is the highest graded version of it. What will the most affordable PSA 1 version of this set you back? Well, about $2,200. So honestly, way better than the Mantle. Makes the Mantle sound, that makes this seem super cheap. And honestly, for $2,200 to have a piece of history from that set, of course, it is one of the high number cards that was dumped into the ocean. I think it's a great card to have in terms of as a collector. So let's see what's next. Willie Mays. Willie Mays, PSA 9, sold for over 200 grand in 2017. That was a long time ago, obviously. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that the price for that would be probably 2.5 times or 3 times what it did, maybe more. There is a PSA 10 of this in existence, only one. We saw it surface with Ken Golden and Ken Kendrick, the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who owns the only PSA 10 version of this card. Ken Kendrick also owns, he owns the highest grade. He owns the Gretzky PSA 8 Honus Wagner T206. He owns the only PSA 10, I think it's the only PSA 10 true Mantle rookie from 51 Bowman. He owns the highest graded Babe Ruth rookie card. His collection is just bananas. It's 100 million plus in value for sure. He owns one of the other 52 Topps PSA 10 Mickey Mantles as well, by the way. But moving on, that's actually basically a history of the 1952 Topps baseball set, why it's so infamous and valuable, and why this 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle is quite possibly the most famous and actually somewhat attainable cards in the world. When I say attainable, I mean the other most famous card in the world is probably the 1909 T206 Sweet Caporal Honus Wagner card. But in order to get a copy of that, even in a PSA 1 or SGC 1 or, you're gonna be forking out into the millions of dollars with an M with 6 zeros on it, and probably multiple of millions to get one of those. Whereas this, you can actually get it for like $25,000, maybe 25 to 30,000. So it kind of makes this sound like a bargain. If you have the money, then I think you gotta have a 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle. Hopefully we'll be adding it to our personal collection soon, hopefully in the next few years, we'll see. But that'll do it for me here on this week's episode of the Cardboard Chronicles. Hope you enjoyed this little journey back in time. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe to the channel down below. Like, comment if you want, really helps us in getting more videos out to you guys. So until next time, from here at Hollywood Rips, Mr. Hollywood, out.